and kaboom, and then, yes, it's recording. Say, good evening, everybody. Oops. It would help if I turned your mics back on, wouldn't it? All right, how about that? Good evening, everybody.
Hi there.
There we go. All right, now I'm going to turn you off there. So good evening and welcome. Today is the 17th of July, which means it's time for the monthly webinar called The Rhythm of Flow, the soundtrack of flow, how to use music in your Tai Chi Fit flow classes. And I have so much to go over, and it's going to take 15 minutes or so, and then we'll all be out of here and go have dinner. So I say that every month, and then it's like 7 o'clock, and I go, I gotta go. So we'll see how long it takes here. But how many of you have been through the Tai Chi Fit choreography workshop? Okay, a little bit less than half. All right, so this is excellent because we're gonna maybe go over some of that again tonight. And I also, let's see if I can bring this up here so you can see something. Share my screen with you. We're going to talk about this document right here, which is the Tai Chi Fit Choreography Notebook. And we're going to use this to illustrate how we put music into our Tai Chi Fit Flow classes. And then you can use this as a worksheet. And I'll put the link to that you can download for yourself in Canvas in the music section. And so you'll, unless it's already in there. Have I already put that in there? Now I don't remember. But if I haven't already put it in there, I'm going to put it in so you guys can use it. Tonight, what the plan is that I'm going to give a brief outline of how we use music in Tai Chi Fit Flow and give some illustrations of it. I'm going to play you some music and use it to illustrate the theory that I'm going to talk about. And then what we're going to do, and we have some basic topics for discussion, and they're kind of like rhetorically loaded questions that everybody will probably be able to answer within 2 seconds of me asking it. And then we'll talk about it anyway for a minute or two, and then we'll move on from there. But I just want to cover it. And these are the things like, how do you know what kind of music is appropriate for your class? How do you know where to put the music in your class? What happens when you put the music in the wrong place? And what happens when you put the music in the right place? So those are the basic topics for tonight. Yes, Judy.
Oh, Heather asked how to raise your hand, and so I was showing her.
she's like, thanks, Judy. You can do that.
Now, before you go any further, like I said, I'm ready for you tonight.
Oh.
Okay? Now, you asked me last time about people who had passed the practicum for Part A and were working on Part B, and some of them are now finished with Part B.
Yeah, but I don't care tonight. But since you brought it up, let's go ahead and celebrate those people.
All right. We have 18 people that passed from the 12th of June to the 30th of June. 18. And from July 1st to today, we have 13 more. And within the next 2 weeks, we will probably have 10 more on that.
All right. I'm going to turn the microphones back on because let's clap it up for those guys.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Now I will go back to the mute. All right. Cool. Any of them here tonight?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Let's see. We have Janae. We have Timothy. We have Lois.
Oh, pause right there for just a second. Is Lois here? Lois, are you? There you are. I have to just say this because Lois sent me an email just before class started, and she goes, you know, on the original sign-up sheet, it said that this class is 3 hours long tonight, and I was wondering why nobody was signing up. I'm like, no, it's not 3 hours. Like I said, it's 20 minutes. I must have been thinking about Gilligan's Island or something like that when I put that in there. So Lois, congratulations, and you won't have to sneak off and go get something to eat because we'll be done long before that.
Lois, you're probably right. When he gets to talking, it's 3 hours.
I'm just going to sit here and drink my tea.
May I continue now? Okay. We have Timothy. We have Kaz is almost there. Karen did it. Let's see. Chris, you better get next time, okay? Penny did it. Jan. I gotta go to the next page. We have where'd you guys all go? I got a whole list of people that
All right, well, we're going to do an abbreviated version like the original theme song to Gilligan's Island, where we just say, and the rest are here. Yeah. So congratulations, everybody.
I don't remember that song.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking about playing that song tonight. I might still before the night is over. But I do have some others that I want to share with you. And
Anyway, thank you, because
yeah.
I wanted you to know that.
Thank you very much. And I am very proud of you guys. On another day, maybe tomorrow or the next day, we'll do another live stream, just sort of ad hoc during the day, and we'll talk about another update to the Region 1 and the Go Live and what all is happening there. So very excited about that. But let's move on to some music, shall we? The music is placed in the way that we select and then use music in Tai Chi Fit is based on a notion that every class tells a story. Like it's not just an exercise format, it's actually something deeper than that. It is an experience of your life in microcosm. And this story theme, this story arc is what's known as the hero's journey. Because all of us are going on a hero's journey all the time. We go on a hero's journey throughout the whole broad spectrum of our life. But we also go on sort of smaller microcosmic versions of that hero's journey all the time. And in the Tai Chi Fit Flow class, we experience it in that 30 minutes, right? And the story, and it affects us all. One of the reasons why we have such a gut level reaction to a Tai Chi Fit Flow class is because it's a familiar, deeply rooted, archetypal experience, right? And so if we tell that story well, we connect with people on a very deep level, and that's how they get the impact. It's Oz the Wonder Dog out there chasing the neighbor. We get the impact of that. We have a transformational experience. The purpose of the hero's journey arc is to go through the whole cycle in order to change in some way, right? Transformation, to change our shape and emerge on the other side, back where we started, but not exactly the same as when we started. And so as you go on this journey, there are recognizable phases of that journey. And so every good story, every good movie, every good opera follows the same pattern of telling the story in these distinct phases because everybody recognizes them. And when you listen to the soundtrack to a movie or the score of an opera or a play, you will also notice that the music is composed specifically to follow that same story. In fact, you could listen to Wagner and not watch the opera and understand the story. You follow the story, right? So we use music in Tai Chi Fit in the same way. The music is the soundtrack to the story that we're telling. And if it's laid in correctly, it's really powerful. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So here are, and if you're taking notes tonight, here, this is something to take notes on. Here are the 4 phases. This is a simplified version of the hero's journey arc. I think if you follow Joseph Campbell's phase, there's like 27. I mean, it's like a lot of people. 13, I think he has 13 phases to the hero's journey, but we'll just use 4. Very simplified format. Phase 1 is what we call the invitation. The invitation to the journey. The call to adventure, it's often referred to. Like something happens, it just sort of tickles your fancy, sort of hits you in the ear from a distance and says, you know, kind of whispers to you, hey, don't you want to step out? You know, there's something interesting over the horizon. You want to come with me and go check it out, right? It's meant to be pleasant and tantalizing. There are stories, and I will say this, so that variations, almost the opposite side of the spectrum. There are stories where that first phase, the call to adventure, is catastrophic, cataclysmic, right? If you remember from freshman college reading the Aeneid, you know the story of the Aeneid, how Rome was eventually founded. So this story by Ovid is that at the night of the Trojan horse, that there is a guy who is having a nightmare. He's one of the princes. He's Hector's brother, and he's having a nightmare that the whole town is on fire and that everybody's dying and that their Greeks have invaded. Then he wakes up and it's true. And so he gathers all the survivors and they go on, you know, this journey. And so that is his call to adventure. His call to adventure to get out on the road is the fact that his city is burning all around him. His father is killed before his eyes. He loses his wife. And so like, screw it. I'm out of here, man. Like that's the call to adventure. But most of the time, it is a pleasant sort of easing, Pied Piper-ish kind of call to adventure. That's phase 1. So as I'm describing this and, you know, drawing it out a little bit, being a bit dramatic about it, I want you to think about music that would go along with that kind of story. Does that make sense? I'm going to give you some examples in a minute here. The second phase is what we would call the journey begins. So in Joseph Campbell's rendition of the hero's journey, he says that between these 2 phases, between the call to adventure and the journey actually begins, there's a threshold. There's a moment when the hero, you, the participant in the class, can go, no way, man. I'm going back home. I'm pulling the covers up over my head and pretending that I never heard this. Right? This is the refusal of the call. I don't want the threshold. In every story where the hero does this, the universe says, oh, hell no, and snatches them out of bed with some kind of even worse disaster, right? So by one way or another, the hero begins to go out on his journey, and now things start to happen. It starts out pretty mellow. I'm on the road. Dun, 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 dun. This is me on a horse, right? And little by little, he has a bunch of experiences. One of the first things that happens is he meets his mentor, or her, may I say. The hero meets their mentor, their Obi-Wan Kenobi, their Merlin. That is the role you play in the class as the instructor, as the facilitator. You are Merlin to their Arthur, Athena. How do I feminize Arthur? I don't know. So then they also meet their sidekicks, their Sancho Panzas, their Fellowship of the Ring. You know, all those people come together to join them. And in the perspective of the participants in your class, it's like they're the central hero and everybody else around them is their posse, their sidekicks. And then the next person next to them thinks that they're the hero and everybody else is the sidekick. They're always having that same experience. Does that make sense? And then together, they begin to experience challenges. They get progressively tougher and tougher and tougher. And it's almost like each challenge prepares the hero for the next challenge. If you can't make it past level 1, you can't go on to level 2 and get the coins. I'm determined to pull out every metaphor that I know tonight in class, just so you know. I'm using them all up. Then I can get new ones. Until finally you come to a moment when you think that you know it all. You think that you know it all. You've progressed through all the challenges. Man, I must be badass. I'm tough. I'm smart. The fate is with me, right? And then they progress into phase 3. Phase 3 in the Joseph Campbell model, again, is called the descent into the cave. So in the Star Wars trilogy, Return of the Jedi, Luke is on the planet with Yoda, and Yoda is telling him that in that cave, you'll face your greatest fear. And Luke says, "I'm not scared," and Yoda says, "You will be. You will be." Right? And so that's what happens in phase 3. You descend into the cave to face your greatest fear, to face your greatest challenge, to prove to yourself that not only do we say that which does not kill us make us stronger, but go ahead and kill me, because I'll come back stronger anyway. I'll be reborn. And then after that rebirth, you really are about to be a completely different person. Your transformation is almost complete. But there's one more part, because now that you've had that transformation, which is a discovery of some kind, a self-awareness that when you teach it to others will change their lives too. And so you have to bring it home. You've got to take that discovery, that treasure, back to your home place, back to where you started, and each one teach one. And this is what the 4th phase is called, the homecoming. And the homecoming is sweet. The homecoming is nostalgic. The homecoming is a final, a final sigh of release. So can you feel that story? Can you hear that story as I give you the big 4 phases of it? So and you are telling the story, leading the story, like I said, being the Obi-Wan to everyone else's Luke as the story is going on. And to help you in this telling of the story, you play music. So the music is a tool, an aid to the storytelling process. And as you tell that story with good music, the story actually works better. The storytelling is easier. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second and just chat about this. Any questions, thoughts, experiences of your own, stories that this reminds you of, and we'll talk about it for a minute. You do the hand raise, or Heather can wave frantically in the air. Celeste is waving her hands frantically. See, it works. Yes.
I think I might have a really good song for the very end.
Oh, cool.
It's called Borderline by Bliss.
Okay, hold on to that song. That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to get to in the second half of the class. I'm going to have you. I'll call. Well, no, I'm going to save you for the ending portion. But that's exactly what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to see what songs you brought, and we'll see. Now, of course, Celeste just let the cat out of the bag because here's how I was going to do this. I was going to have you play the song and then have everybody else guess what part
Oh.
is it should fit into. Does that make sense?
And I even spelled the name. That one.
All right. Well, we won't let you not participate, but we'll already know. So we'll do when we get to the fourth part. We'll do yours first.
Okay.
Cool. She's right on the money. She's anticipating. Tim in Chesterland, Ohio, raised his hand.
Put that on if everybody knows where I'm from,
Yeah.
because they always ask. But I do have an experience where I did a class and did the whole story with the get together and meet your fellow participants, and you go on the journey. And Part the Horse's mane was moving the vines away from the mouth of the cave to enter in, and it was a real nice story. Everybody enjoyed it, and at the end, I had like about 12 ladies in the room, and the oldest, most frail lady says, "I was the warrior," because everybody had a part to play. One was the magician, one was the warrior, one was the map reader, the tactician. So everybody in the group had some kind of thing to play.
Nice. Yeah.
But another thing I wanted to say, this sounds like going through part A and B as well in the canvas without the music.
Without the music, maybe we should have music for every lesson.
Yeah.
Play this music. Cool. Yeah. So we talked about that in the choreography class. That it's perfectly doable. I would encourage you to try at least once to actually lead a class where you are narrating an actual story. And if you want some maybe help on this, talk to Judy. Judy did a whole series of classes where she did every class with a different story. And so everybody would come day by day to listen to the story that Judy was telling and see how the movements would go with that story. So, what else? Other questions or thoughts about the breakdown of the four parts of the hero's journey? Yeah, Heather.
So regarding the story that we're trying to tell, and I'm sure you're going to get to this. I can't remember who did it. Somebody played Beach Boys music for their flow show, and it was very fun. What is the thought on lyrics versus non-lyrics?
You just have to make it. That's a great question, by the way. But the answer will be the same. Actually, I'm not going to give the answer I was going to give. I'm going to give this answer. How does it affect flow? That's always the question to answer to your question. So when you are tempted to ask this question, should I use lyrics, or should I use modern music, or should I use orchestral music or classical music? The answer isn't cut and dried. The answer is always contextual. So what's happening today with these people and not those people last week or whatever. And, is it working for me? Like, you guys know me. I can tell a long tail story. I can stretch it out. I can create all kinds of, but I have bad days. I can do when words don't come out, and I'm like, so clearly this is not working for me today. Let me shut up and put on some peepaw music. Does that make sense? So it is always how flow is affected by the way you tell a story. Play the music. Cool. Well, cool. Let's move on. I want to start by the way, we are going to get up and move. We're going to get up and move when we start listening to your music, because then we'll listen to it, and I think what I'm going to do, you guys are up for a little bit of an experiment to see if this works? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the music and I'm going to take some suggestions. 2 or 3 people can just yell out, hey, let's try X move or X combo with that piece of music. And then we'll all get up and do it together and we'll see how it works. Does that make sense? Even if it doesn't, we'll try it anyway. All right, so here's what I want to do. I'm going to start by doing a screen share again of the manual, if I can find it. Okay, here we go. So this is, can you guys all see this? This is the choreography notebook. And I am going to, so the first thing you'll find in the choreography notebook is a sample choreographed class. And we'll go over how the notebook is laid out. It's pretty simple. You can get it right away. But notice that here in the first section, under the invitation, I have written actually movements that I wanted to use and the songs that I wanted to play during that section. Is that clear? So let's listen to what this sounds like. And I won't play the whole song, obviously, but we'll just play a little snippet and then move on. Let's see here. All right, so here is the first song in the invitation, the call to adventure phase.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel.
Guys, can you hear the music?
Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. Yeah, it's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea,
All right.
you
I'll
know
pause
what
it
I
there.
mean.
Okay. So there we have, again, sort of that wistful, little mesmerizing kind of music, right? Something that gets people, it's like not too abrupt, not too, but sexy. I mean, it's tantalizing. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's a good kind of song to start with. Yeah, Carol, hold on a second. Yes.
I just want to say we've used that before with Michael Bublé,
Yeah.
and we call it the Tai Chi stripper song.
Yeah, he has his own version, which is very much like that.
When you said sexy, I go, yeah.
But the point I'm trying to make is the subtlety of this version of the song, right?
Yes.
So, in fact, that's a good point, right? That you could pick different versions of the same song and they don't all sound the same, and therefore they're not always appropriate in the same spot in your class.
Exactly. Yeah.
I did a class, what song was it that I played? And I can't remember, that was a couple of years ago. And we had a version that was Nat King Cole. We had a version that, I think it was I Put a Spell on You, right? And we used the Nina Simone version, the Annie Lennox version, the Animals have a version, Eric Burden, and there was somebody else. And each one was very, very different, right? Just to see how each one could feel in a different part of class.
I use a Tracy Chapman song. Where is it? Baby, Can I Hold You? But I found a Gregorian chant
Ooh.
And it's a totally different piece of a totally different sense about it. And then you can add Pavarotti to it, and that's a totally different sense to that as well. So
It's really fun to run through different arrangements of different pieces of music. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so that's our first song in this particular playlist. And then we are still in the segment known as the invitation. So this is a playlist from a full-length class, an hour-long class. When we're doing like the flow show, which is 15 minutes, we may only have time for one song in each section. Two songs maybe in one good section. But in the full-length class, I actually had 4 songs in the invitation. So I want to keep going. I want to keep pulling the participants. And so we went on to, is this truly the next song? I'm going to give it just a little bit more. How's the volume level on your end? Is it good? Okay.
When I was in the 3rd grade, I thought that I was gay, cause I could draw. My uncle was, and I kept my room straight. I told my mom, tears rushing down my face. She's like, Ben, you've loved girls since before pre-K. Tripping. Yeah, I guess she had a point, didn't she? Bunch of stereotypes all in my head. I remember doing the math, like, yeah, I'm good at Little League. A preconceived idea of what it all meant. But those that like the same sex have the characteristics. The right-wing conservatives think it's a decision, and you can be cured with some treatment in religion. Man-made rewiring of a predisposition, playing God. Oh nah, here we go. America the brave still fears what we don't know. And God loves all his children. It's somehow forgotten, but we paraphrase a book written 3,500 years ago. I don't know.
And I can't change.
So there's still like a subtlety to the music there. It's not in your face. It's not drum beats and driving you to war, but it's definitely still making you sort of wake up, and you have a feeling you're going somewhere, but you're not quite sure where that is yet. Right? So I like this piece of music, and I chose it for that reason. It is more upbeat a little bit than the last song, the first song. More movement, more percussion. But it's still not, entirely boom, boom, boom yet. Does that make sense? All right, here's the next piece, still in the first section of the invitation. Now, bear in mind that while we're listening to this music, I'm introducing movements. So what kind of movements are we doing in the first section of class?
You tell all the boys.
These are your +1s. These are your push-pulls, your Princess on the Mountaintop. These are horizontal and vertical circles. Right?
But that
beginning to move the body and feel the rhythm.
Oh no. You've carried on so long, you couldn't stop if you tried it.
Paul says, run the risk of the lyrics offending and breaking the flow by its context and content.
So high
that again goes back to you knowing your audience.
I'm gonna try. Would you let me see beneath your beautiful? Would you let me?
So you might be able to see that already this class had a theme. This whole class had a theme. You can see that by the music, the song selection I've had so far. But would I have played these songs and chosen all of these kinds of musical soundtracks if I was not aware of the group that I was playing to? Right? And by the way, I've told this story before. I'll tell you a quick story. One of the first demo classes that we ever did when we launched Tai Chi Fit, I was in San Jose, California. We had a packed room, like 150 people, I'd say, in a aerobics room. And I started playing. It wasn't this playlist, but it was something. And like within a minute, I knew it was the wrong playlist. Like I could just say, like, no, and like it wasn't scatological or anything obvious like that. It was just like I was looking around like, okay, this playlist isn't working. So it taught me a lesson. Always have more than one playlist when you go to a class, right? So if you have a group that you don't really know very well and you bring music that is confrontational, I mean, I don't know exactly what kind of word to put on it, then you have to be prepared to manage that. That is your job as the instructor. How do you cue around that? How do you take something that's really could be offensive or confrontational to somebody and make it work? I'll give you a good example. So I wore actually, I think I wore this. To a demo where there were some guys a little bit older than I was, and they came up afterwards and they really loved the class and they loved me and everything. They said, but hey, like that means something bad to some of us, from the Vietnam era. So I said, I know, I was there too, and I don't want it to ever happen again because I don't want you to come home to the kind of homecoming that you had back then. And he got it, that we can make the symbolism mean whatever we want to if we are good enough at telling the story. Now, if you're not good enough at telling the story, then don't risk it because the class isn't about you, it's about your participants. Does that make sense? But did it stop flow? No, it didn't. Because I'm good enough, right? On most days. And what that means is when I say that I'm that good, it's just that I have tried and failed more times than you have. That is all that means. When you have tried and failed as many times as I have, perhaps I'm hoping you'll be better than me. KK, yes, I see your hand raised.
Okay, let's number one that we're in the invitation. Do you have a beats per minute range?
No.
No.
This is, I think, a topic for another class, perhaps, but there is this concept that we call dancing underneath the beat. And when you have music that has a really definable, strong, and we're gonna see some here in some of the examples, it's actually tempting to sort of get into that rhythm, and you've got to avoid doing that. So you find something that's underneath that defined rhythm, right? I play music with all kinds of cadence and focus on not the musical rhythm, but rather the emotional rhythm of the piece.
I remember that from the 2-day workshop, but I just was curious if there
Yeah.
was a key.
When you have music with too strong a beat, you can get like sucked into it, and all of a sudden you go, holy cow, it's like hold the ball and stroke the string and din 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 bump bump bump, and what am I doing? Oh no. Right?
Great, thanks.
You bet. Chris is asking you, what is the name of the Tai Chi stripper song? That was Feeling Good. It's a Nina Simone song in the original version. Let me get out of that. Okay, next song. And this is one more song that may surprise you. So this is the final song of the invitation section. Oh, wait a minute, this isn't the surprising song. This is
Wait till you're announced.
still in the,
We've not yet lost all our graces. The hounds will stay in chains. Look upon your greatness and she'll send the call out, 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 send. Call the ladies out, they're in their finery. 100.
I love Lord. This is actually like one of her lighter, up more, more happy songs. All of her music always makes me think that about whatever it was I was about to do, I need to think twice. Like, that's how her music often sounds to me. So this wraps up then this whole first section. It takes you to the end of this song. And then let me see what, okay. I often end on a tougher song at the end of the first section because it drives people to that threshold of refusing the call, like makes you want to question whether you're in the right class after all. And one of the things that I do usually at that song is our kick series. And so let's go back to the choreography notebook for a second. Oh, wait a second. How did I get? All right, so it skipped over some songs. That's what happened here. So after Same Love, then we go to Radioactive. And then this song, this is the one that I thought I was going to play here. This is the song that seems really out of place and really tough. It starts off mellow because it's still that invitation phase, still tricking you into something.
Well, I woke up to the sound of silence. The cars were cutting like knives in a fist fight. And I found you with a bottle of wine, your head in the curtains, and heart like the 4th of July. You swore and said we are not shining stars.
I'm going to pause it and get everybody to stand up and come and move with me. And to do that, I'm going to go there. Okay, and then I can switch that camera there. Now I apologize just a tiny bit for dumping us right into big movements. So we'll start off with a little sinking the chi, okay? Oops, I gotta change my camera, don't I?
I woke up to the sound of silence. The cars were cutting like knives in a fist fight. And I found you with a bottle
There
of
we
wine,
go.
your head
Sorry
in the
about that.
curtains, and heart like the 4th of July.
All right, so we'll start off with just
You
a little
swore and said
swaying.
we are not shining stars. This I know.
Sway over to this foot,
I never said we are.
sway over this foot. If you want to
Though I
hold on
never
to something,
been through hell
room
like
handle,
that, I've closed enough
or
windows to know you can never look back.
call your husband and wife into the room and hold on to that, that's fine too.
If you're lost in
We're gonna come over to
a
this this
or
foot
you're
here,
sinking
and
like
one
a
knee
stone,
comes up,
carry on.
and back down. And then we sway over to this
May
side.
your past be the sound of your feet
And
upon
comes
the
up.
ground. Carry
Easy
on.
peasy. All right, here we go. One knee comes up,
Carry on,
one
carry
foot comes
on.
up. And back in. And down. One knee comes up,
So I met up with some friends at the edge of the
back
night,
in.
and
and then hold it out there, and it's point and flex, and back in, and down. And out. Hold it out there, point and flex, back in, and down. Now when we're doing this in a live class, I often do this next one by counting how many people are. So there's 35 people in here. Just point, flex, point, flex, point, flex, point, flex, point, flex, point, flex, point, flex. All right, that's enough. I did legs today. So back down. And over to the side. Hold it out there. And point. Flex. Come on, Kaz. Point and flex. I have no idea how many I've done. I think I have to start over. Right back here. And down. All right. And one more time. This comes up. Hold it out there. Point. Flex. Get it back in. Stay with me. Under the armpit. And out. And back. And out. And hold it out there and point. Flex. Back in. And down. And over. And up. Hold it out there, point, flex, point, flex back in, under the armpit. There you go, hold it out there, point, flex, back in, down. Stay with me, cross this ankle over. Buddha sits on the lotus blossom. Take your time. And back up. Sink the two. All right, come on back in. And there we go. Super. And then I'm going to change this camera over there too. All right, so that wraps up the first phase. That wraps up the first phase of the class. And that really brings you to the threshold where people are like, really? This is the Tai Chi class? But what happens next? What happens next is after that song, everybody drops into a deeper state of flow. And that's also what happens in the hero's journey story. When they cross the threshold and they start the journey, there is a deepening of the experience. Right? Now it's real. Now it's really happening. So that's just a little trick that I do in that transitional song. Questions, thoughts, comments, shares? Did you hate it or like it?
That was rad.
Carol, what you had?
I'm so glad someone brought up about rhythm. I have one student in my class. I brought my music down because I have one student in my class who wants to dance to the music.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure how to handle that. So
Mhm.
I guess the lazy way to handle that is the rhythm that I use is where I want them to be in their movement. And I don't know if that's the best way to handle that or
So here is the thing. So aside from this individual, so the way to handle this particular individual is to let them do whatever they want.
well, I do,
Yeah.
and
Right.
I'll cue it. I'll cue it by going, okay, nice and easy.
Yeah, don't do that,
All right,
right? Because it'll make it worse.
okay. I'm
Um,
glad to hear that. I'm good with that.
so there's always a reason. I mean, this is the thing, and people like there's some kind of mystery, or they're not doing it right, or they don't get it, or there's something missing. Something. In other words, there is a conversation in your head about there's something wrong here, and there's nothing wrong. You know, it's like, so they're doing it faster, right? The phenomenon that is happening is that they haven't yet been hooked into rhythmic entrainment. Right? And so once that, and that sometimes takes a while. It sometimes takes a while. And I haven't been in your class. I have no idea who this individual is. And I am only telling you what some of the reasons that I've seen before. I'm not suggesting that I know the answer to this person. But if a person comes into the class in any kind of a protective, armored, guarded, shy kind of state, it's harder to get them into rhythmic entrainment. Like they're already set up to avoid connecting with other people. Right? So it just takes them longer.
Yeah, I don't know. I know this person quite well. I don't know that that's the case.
Yeah.
But it's another opportunity for me for observation.
Yes, right. So you think to yourself, so that may not be the reason, but there is a reason. There is always a source of that disconnect. And then what's really fun, the adventure of being the instructor is to discover what that disconnect is. Penny says, haven't you said it's okay to kind of dance along with the music? Yeah, as long as you're still in charge. Like I dance along with the music because I can stop anytime I want, right? But if I get to the point where now the music is in charge of me, then I'm not in charge of my own journey.
Exactly.
That's what that means. But
so perhaps another topic sometime is how to facilitate being in charge of the journey. You know, it's like,
Yep.
Does life manage you or do you manage life?
right. So the music, this is really interesting. You know, it is pertinent to this topic. So we get better and better at selecting music to be the soundtrack, and we place them in just
I
this.
have a cranky dog back here, so if you want to mute me, that's fine.
I'll mute you for now, but you always come back. I've selected music very deliberately to be at a certain, to play at a certain moment, thinking that this is the experience that somebody's going to have at this moment of the journey, right? So I guess it will bring up one of the topics, one of the questions that I was going to ask tonight, and that is, what happens when you put your song in the wrong place? Like you may love the song, may be an awesome song, but depending on where you place it, it may not add to the story. So when KK was asking about rhythm, asking about beat, right? And I said, I'm not looking for a beat, I'm looking for the emotion in the song, right? And so my cueing, my interpretation of the movements, my movement selection is about how do I dig the most out of that emotional content of that song. We can do that with silence too, by the way. We do this with non-music. But rather than have non-music or quiet be a white noise, nothing background, how do you dig the most out of silence? To help you tell the story. So quiet. So internal. So forcing me to look in the mirror. Right? Hitchcock says it's not the music you play in your movies, it's when the music stops that it gets scariest. Right? So these are some ideas. All right, so just given the time here, because I have a lot more music I could play, but I want to give you a chance to play some of your music. I'm gonna let me play at least one here on a slightly different kind of song, because I picked a bunch of music that is ridiculously obvious about how they can be used for the different, it's almost like manipulatively obvious how you could use them for the different sections. So let's see if I can get you to guess which section this song goes with. If I can just find my playlist now. Come on. Here we go. All right, so you have to guess which section this song would go to.
Prepare ye the way of the Lord. Prepare ye the way of the Lord. Prepare ye the way of the Lord. Prepare ye the way of the Lord.
Okay, so I'm just going to turn the mics back on and y'all can yell. There we go.
Two.
I hear a two.
The journey begins to.
No, threshold.
The adventure.
Nah, threshold. Refusal.
The journey begins.
So yes, I'm going to turn the music back, or the microphones back off, because it's just, there's so many of us tonight. I said this was manipulatively obvious. I may or may not actually use that particular song, but it is quintessentially a invitation to the journey song. In fact, this is the opening to the rock opera, right? The Godspell. He comes out on stage and he sings this as the preparation for the rest of the play. Right? Okay, really quick. Here's another one. Let's just see if this makes more sense to you. Okay, what do you say? Where does that go?
The journey.
It is another example of the invitation. Like think about what happened to you when you saw The Lion King for the first time, right? And this song played and you're like, what is going to happen? Wow, like This is a shamanic incantation dragging me into this whole story. Holy cow. Right? Now, again, I may or may not use songs that are that obvious in my invitation, but I wanted to give you a sense of what it means to be an invitation song. Yeah, Anne-Marie. Oops, you're going to have to turn on your own mic there.
Isn't anything Disney copyrighted?
Yes, yes. Yeah, are you gonna turn me in?
Wouldn't use that.
You shouldn't use that unless you have a license, unless you have an ASCAP license or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Okay.
But there's, a lot of cinematic kinds of music that you can get on royalty-free music. If you're using Epidemic Sound, they have a whole category called cinematic music.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So who's got a song that they want to share? I'm going to find my Shazam, and we'll Shazam it. Heather, what do you got? Oops, you're going to have to turn on your own microphone there.
All right, ready?
Yes. All right, hold off. You can turn it off.
This time, darling, just kiss me slow. Your heart is all I own, and in your eyes, you're holding mine. Baby, I'm dancing in the dark with you between my arms.
Nice. What a great choice. All right. Oops. Stop. What do you think? Let's have some guesses as to where we would put this song. Who can't love Ed Sheeran?
The invitation?
Yeah? Okay. Why?
Invitation for me.
I think we have some Ed Sheeran fans.
Well, my why would be because it's not only a hero's journey that I'm trying to impart on these people, but it's also a love journey that I'm trying to impart on these people.
Okay. Now, I want to call everybody's attention to something I just watched, though. I thought was really interesting. So you started to move when you were listening to the music, right? And you started to do a particular combo. Which one did you do?
Playing the peepaw with Parting the Wild Horse's Mane.
Okay. So why? Why do you, like, I don't know that you even knew why, but why do you think your body said, do this move?
If I want to get deep into it, I've tried to play musical instruments, so I can say that I can play the peepaw with Tai Chi. I don't know, it just seemed to go together.
Okay, so but this is
Just seemed to flow.
so just so that you guys know, this is exactly how I pick music when I do my choreography. I'll sit down and listen to a song like that, and I'll just start. Sometimes I'll close my eyes, sometimes I'll not. And I'll start moving, and something will start to happen. I'll do, like play the peepaw, just fits right there, and there's that part, and then I go, that's it. But so now let's go to the next place. What part of the choreography, let's think about the choreography of the basic routine. What part of the 4-part hero's journey cycle do we do play peepaw, part horse's mane?
Maybe the playing the peepaw is playing the hero's journey to play a song to try to tame the situation. And then should I need to deflect something, I can deflect it.
Let's go even simpler. All right, let me get everybody to stand up and we'll run into the studio and go there. All right, so give me a second here while my Spotify has lost the internet. Okay, what is, let's see, Ed Sheeran. And that song is called
Perfect.
Perfect. It's still just trying to hook up to the, try again. Something went wrong. Of course it did, because Mercury's in retrograde right now, which is the perfect time to do a class on music. All right, we're gonna have to do this like down and dirty and old school. Heather, put your iPod up to the microphone and we'll just let you be our music. More or less, yes. Are you with me? Sync the chi. And then just sway with me side to side. One foot comes out and taps the ground. One foot comes out. One hand floats above the foot. One hand, one foot, other hand. And then a big circle. Breathe in, breathe out. Stay with me. One hand circles around, tosses away. Here we go. Play the peepaw, bring it back in. One more. And circle around. Hold me close right there. Then let me go. Back to the center. Big hug. Big hug. Sink the chi. All right. Good. Good, good, good. Come on back in.
As you can tell, my cockatiel loves that song.
Hold on one second. Oh, okay, that was beautiful. So do you think that fit with those movements?
I think that's wrapped.
What about everybody else? Could you feel the music with that selection of moves? So the question I was asking Heather is so let's just use the basic routine choreography as just so that we're all on the same page with that. What section is that movement? What, the hero's journey, the 4 parts: invitation, journey begins, deepest cave, coming home. What section is play the peepaw, part horse's mane, in?
The challenge? No, I don't know.
Yeah. So I'm challenging you guys. I'm gonna make you think. You didn't tell me there'd be a test, David Dorian, you rat. So in the choreography, Janae, what do you think?
I was just gonna say, maybe if it were a full length flow, I would probably put it in the invitation. But if it were a short flow, I'd put it in the journey begins.
Yeah, too.
So our basic routine is a sort of in between full length and short flow. So it's a 30-minute, 35-minute flow. And it is in the first part of the journey begins. So we've already done our sinking the chi and our +1, and we've come back. And now we step into movements which have a little bit more complexity and a little bit more synergy. And that's what Play the Peepaw, Parting Horse's Mane is. And look how perfectly that song and those movements matched up. So that is a song that works in The Journey Begins. Does that make sense? Oh, okay, now Elizabeth had her hand up there. You've been so patient. Yes, Elizabeth. Elizabeth Rollin.
No, I was just going to play my song.
Oh, okay. Hold on to that. I'll come back.
See what you need for that.
Okay.
No, it was a question about this. Thank you.
Okay, I'll come back. Mary Coomer. Mary, are you still there?
Yeah, yes, DDR. I don't know where I disappeared to, but can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yep.
Okay, just as well you can't see me, I guess. Okay, I know it's not a very, I know it's not a good thing to ask a question that applies only to your own particular little circumstance, but I do teach Tai Chi Fit twice a week for 15 minutes as part of a larger class. I brought my song because I put it on repeat.
Oh, okay.
And I just want to know if you like my song.
Okay, let us.
I gave it to you at the beginning. It's called Smooth as Silk by Gabi. And I emailed him and he was thrilled that I was using it for Tai Chi. So I'm going to mute myself now. Can you find it?
Let me see if I can find it.
Smooth as Silk by Gabi. I can put it back in the CD player and blast it again if you need me to, but you have to tell me.
I'm trying to.
All right, let me.
Okay, I got it here.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, I'll mute myself back again. I think. Okay.
Great. Okay, so apparently that's all we're getting of that song. So what do you guys think? To answer Mary's question, I love the song. I'd put it on repeat too. But let's talk about it in the context of a flow class. What would you do with a song like that?
A short segment of Tai Chi Fit. I'll go away now.
So I think it's appropriate for a short segment of Tai Chi Fit. What's happening in this song? I don't know if I can play it again, but let's just try. Come on, you can do it. I have faith in you. Are you guys hearing anything? Me either. Well, poop. All right, well, I'll tell you what's happening in that song. Nothing. Right? It's not challenging. I mean, it's just mellow. It's beautiful. It's mellow. It's, you know, it's me sitting in a hammock and drinking a tall iced tea. Does that make sense? Can you hear that in that song? So there is a place in the second section of, this is getting far afield, you know, really sort of deep into the hero's journey kind of storytelling, where the whole fellowship, you know, all the posse, and they're on their journey, they face a lot of adventures, and then they, like exhausted, stumble into the inn and sit around and drink beer for a day and just rest. And you can absolutely have a song like that, especially at the threshold between the end of The Journey Begins and the beginning of Descent into the Cave. Right? You can even have, in fact, do I have it on this?
DDR.
Yes.
Remember, there's seniors too. I teach senior citizens, and I've
Yeah,
got
yeah.
it queued up. If you want me to play a little more of it, I've got it in my CD player.
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't mean it's in a pejorative sense whatsoever. I'm just saying that if you use this music, you have to recognize what is the emotion that comes out of this music. And so it's a light emotion. It's a summertime rest, or in some way, which may be absolutely appropriate for your seniors class. You know?
Well, they come to Silver Sneakers first for 45 minutes. Then they have a 15-minute break. Then they come to Fitness Play Date. We do yoga, we dance, or chair yoga, we dance, and then we do Tai Chi Fit to end. I can play more if you want. I've got it queued up now.
Hold on one second. I'm going to do something else. If I can find. Give me 1 second here. Oh, I know what the song was. So this is the same kind of place in your story where you would have what we call comic relief, right? You would play a song like this, or you play something that, you know, you've been heavy the whole class. You're playing Ed Sheeran, you know, you've been playing Macklemore, and it's like, oh man, I'm wrung out. And then you play this. Hold on a second. Apparently it has to download.
Because you know I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass,
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty clear. I ain't no size 2, but I can shake it like I'm supposed to do. 'Cause I got that boom boom.
Does that make sense? So this is a relief music. All right, so I got to move us along here. Elizabeth has some music she's going to play for us. And let me see if I can Shazam it. If I can just figure out how to make Shazam work now.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah. All right, whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Just hold it right up to the microphone.
This is also going to be a phase one, I think.
Okay,
Most of us
just
are phase one.
just music.
Oops. Uh-oh. It jumped.
It jumped. But here, I think I got it. Let's try this.
Negrita. It's
Okay, turn yours off for a second. I love that music. I love that. So it is also in that same sort of tropical type of genre, but there's so much more emotion in that piece of music. What do you guys think? Who's got an idea about where you would put this piece?
The invitation.
Invitation, all right. Kaz, what do you think?
The invitation.
You say the invitation, all right. Any other ideas? Carol?
Perhaps if it's at the beginning of 3, I don't know what the rest of the song sounds like, but if it's like a lot of these Spanish guitar things that build.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know that either. Let's pretend that it's going to be like that the whole song. Just because that's all we know. So I'm just saying, yeah.
We haven't talked about it yet, but would that be part of Coming Home?
I like it for a homecoming song, right? I think you probably could use it in the invitation, but in the invitation, well, this is like, think about your own life, your own day. When let's toss Tai Chi Fit out the window, this class, the whole thing like this, you're gonna have this song playing for yourself sometime during the day. Where do you think that you'll be listening to this music?
When I lock myself in the bathroom because my child is throwing in a major fit.
Yeah, that looks good too. And what does the bathroom represent? Like this is
it's a small bathroom, so it represents to me comfort.
Yeah.
Or closeness, or like being swaddled.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what the song brings to me. So I don't know if that would be an invitation, though.
No, that is homecoming.
yeah, safe haven.
Yeah, safe haven. Very well said.
Yeah.
It's a really great idea to imagine what you would find yourself doing during a particular song.
Yeah, right? Because during the day, right, you're going to have different moods. And, like you get up in the morning, I don't want to be like shocked out of, bed too fast, but at some point I'm like getting going. It's like, okay, so now I need some, I'm in the car now. It's time for a little, I don't know, Miley Cyrus or something. I mean, like I need something that's a little bit more getting me going. And then towards the afternoon, I'm like, oh, I'm so mad. Let's play some, some country western that's just kick booty kind of something. You know what I'm saying? Then I get home. It's the end of the day. It's margarita time. And I'm just going to put on a little tropical guitar and let the world go away. Right? That's how we do music. Does that make sense? Let's see. It would help if I put my glasses on, wouldn't it? Kaz says, you got to get into free dancing and then using how you feel to help you decide where it goes. That is exactly where Tai Chi Fit is headed. Right? Yeah, Heather. Oops, you're going to have to do your own microphone.
sorry, would this song be The Journey Begins or The Great Challenge? Give me a second. Here we go. And would this be too aggressive for a flow show?
I don't know. Turn it off for a second. Let's see if I've got the right song here.
It makes me want to sit right down and cry, 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 yeah. I walk along the city streets so dark with rage and fear, and I wish that
All right. Before we go into that, let me ask you, what do you think would happen if you put that song in the invitation section?
I think with veterans, I don't think it would fly well. I think I would have to tailor it to different flow show classes when I get to that point.
Yeah. So again, I would say, just to be complete, that you can put any song in any section if you can manage it, if you can control the narrative that you're cueing with, right? But I'm not trying to get you to do that yet. I'm trying to get you to just to see the basics of how we choose music and where we put it, right? I love this for the dark, descent, the entrance to the cave, the big challenge, right? There's a rhythm here that's driving, right? And so driving kinds of beats to music is a message to go, keep going, don't stop, don't give up, face it, climb the mountain, right? Exhaust yourself, give it your all. This is the point where you pull it all out and don't leave anything behind. You will literally need to die right now.
What type of movements would you suggest to go along with something not like this? I can't talk today. Specific song, or songs like this. I mean, would it be like a Snake Creeps Down?
All right. Yes, but why? And I'm kind of challenging everybody to think about this. How do we make challenge or make the choreography more challenging in Taiji Fit? So we have a concept called 3 planes and 3 levels. Right? And so a lot of our choreography is in 2 planes and 1 level. Right? We're sort of at the middle level for a lot of our movements, and we're sort of doing a phony turn. We're not really using transverse movement. We're just turning 90 degrees and then stepping out and then turning around and stepping out. So this is still sagittal plane movement, still back and forth. It's not true turn. Wave hands like clouds is a rotational movement, right? Is transverse movement. But most of our movements are this 2 planes, 1 level. To get more complex, you begin to add more levels and more planes. So Snake Creeps Down works for those challenging movements. Why? Because it changes level. And by changing level, you make it more challenging for the participant. And it's not just going down. It's going down and coming back up. In traditional classical Tai Chi routines, we have this movement, Snake Creeps Down, paired with Rooster. So you don't even go back to middle level, you go from low level to high level. And that's the big challenge. In fact, we call it the rooster, or the rooster stands on one leg and the snake creeps down. But the actual name, or an alternate name, a more basic name for that, is the low spot and the high spot. All right. I want to, we're at a little bit over the time that I wanted to spend. Let me just pause for a moment and see if there's any confusion. Have I succeeded in twisting your brains up a little bit to make it more confusing than when we started? Or are you kind of getting the picture? Are there any questions about how we use music?
Getting the picture, you just made my job harder in terms of coming up with a story to tell, but it makes complete sense. So thank you very much for taking this time.
So here is good. I'm glad you said that, Heather, about making your job harder or whatever. So this is something you can play with, but rather than maybe thinking about it, let's use what we've got as a starting point. Let's now go back to the basic routine and simply see how I can see that story in the routine I've already got. I've already got the movements laid out. I've already got the sequence of combinations laid out. How can we use that sequence with this new understanding of music and pick music now for that sequence? Every time you put together a new playlist, you tell a slightly different story. Yeah, I'm wrapping up in just a minute. Does that make sense? All right, I just want to play a couple more really quick examples that, again, are so ridiculously obvious and manipulative that, but I've chosen for that reason. So, I'm using a lot of music from theatrical scores because they don't beat around the bush. They go, I got to just tell everybody in the audience what's going on here. Let me see if I can find this one song here. Nope. All right. So I'll go back to the songs I had selected earlier. Here we go. All right. Here is, well, I'll just do the good one here. Tell me which section you think this song goes into.
Impossible dream to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go.
I'm going to let it play out a little bit.
To rise the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest, and the world will be better for this one man, scorned and covered with scars, still strove with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable star.
Tissues will be passed out at the door.
Services, you get it, girl. That was an amazing sing-along.
That is so. Oh, I love that song. Where do you think? I saw some people like start off with one thing and then change their minds. Where do you think? Now I'm seeing a 3, another 3, another 3. Bill says.
Home?
Bill says 4. Let's see. Jan Clark says 5. Jan Clark, how did you do that? No, I'm kidding. So this is what I would. I mean, what do you feel like when you at the end of that song?
I'm ready to go out and slay the dragon.
I feel like I want to chop down a windmill.
In the course of this song itself is a whole hero's journey. It starts off with an invitation, leads you all the way through the journey to the slaying of the dragon and the tilting at the windmills, and then at the end he says, "And I know when I'm laid to my rest." You know, that's the ultimate homecoming. You know, but I would suggest go back and listen to this again. This is a great segue song between 3 and 4. Right? This is the end of 3 and the beginning of 4. So you've built your playlist and you go, how am I going to get people out of the dragon tilting mode and into the homecoming and calm down a little bit, right? How do I turn that dial down? And this is a great song for that one. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. As I said, I'm going to put the PDF of the choreography planner into Canvas. Look for it in the music section. Give me till tomorrow to put it up there, and also till tomorrow to have the link to the recording of this. You can go back and play with it. Thank you all for bringing music selections and for sharing that with you. Obviously, we could probably make this a whole weekend and just sit around and do a bunch of music. Have an awesome evening, and I'll see you soon.